Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about Hasbro. Hasbro, the owner of Wizards of the Coast, the manufacturer of Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering cards, and they're in trouble. Their stock is in big trouble, and it seems like analysts are blaming a glut of Magic cards and underperformance in board games on the stock's decline. Now, it's really interesting because last year and the year before, during the pandemic, all we heard about was record sales for Hasbro, record board game sales. Dungeons & Dragons has never been better. Dungeons & Dragons is fantastic. And this despite all the controversy around a lot of their political decisions regarding D&D. You know, the orcs are racist. We can't have races anymore. The drow are racist. The monsters have feelings. You know, all this crazy stuff that's been going on with D&D, especially the 5e scene, in my opinion. But yeah, now analysts are like, yeah, Hasbro's got some dead weight. It is Wizards of the Coast, and this is after there was a call to try to spin off Wizards of the Coast. Earlier in the year, one of their investors wanted to force Hasbro to sell off the company, turn Wizards of the Coast into its own thing. And a couple of years ago, there were rumors that Hasbro could be getting Wizards of the Coast ready to sell. Like they would sell off the whole company. I don't know who they would sell it to. Maybe, I don't know, another game manufacturer. But that was the rumor. Possibly a company like Tencent or something. Let's talk about this. So I somehow missed this. This was about a week ago that their stock has dropped off a cliff. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, over 281,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about tabletop somewhat. I've been kind of following the interesting situation with D&D. And, you know, again, I'm an old head, a longtime D&D player. I gave it up for many years, tried to get back into the game with my kids. And yeah, for some reason, under Hasbro, under Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons has become incredibly political, incredibly divisive. There are all kinds of hit pieces being written on players, which is so ironic given that, you know, big plot point of Stranger Things, which, you know, helped bring D&D back into mainstream prominence, was that Eddie was being demonized by other kids at school, by his peers. And that was actually the case back in the 80s and 90s. That was absolutely the case. And now it's all the cool kids trying to dunk on the nerds again, a lot of the OSR players again. But I digress. There's just a lot of weirdness going on. But yeah, apparently it's not helping them out financially. And we kind of saw this with streaming too. You know, all these companies bet on the good times never ending. If you want to call it that, if you want to call the pandemic the good times, basically people were locked in their houses. They had nothing else to do. And now that things are going back to normal, or something resembling normal, people aren't playing games like they used to. They're not playing tabletop like they used to. They're not watching as much Netflix as they used to. They're not using social media as much as they used to. So everything's kind of cratering, right? And so Hasbro had a little bit of a boost there, and they were in Hurtsville a couple of years ago too because of Star Wars toys, unsold Star Wars toys. Anyway, let's go out to Market Watch. I got to give a hat tip to this individual, Professor Dungeon Master, who actually put a video up. It wound up on Boing Boing. And that's what tipped me off that this was a thing. I wasn't even aware it was happening. Hasbro is making too many Magic the Gathering cards, analyst says, and downgrading stock. Overprinting Magic destroys its long-term value. Bank of America analysts say stock is worst performer in S&P 500 today. Now, this was last week. An oversupply of Hasbro Inc.'s Magic the Gathering cards is hurting the ecosystem for the fantasy trading card game, destroying the long-term value of the brand and threatening sales, Bank of America analysts said in downgrading the stock on Monday. Shares of the toy maker slid 9.2% during regular trading, putting the stock on pace for its biggest percentage decline since October 26, 2020. Hasbro was Monday's worst performer in the S&P 500 index. Again, this was last week. Let's see where they're at today. Little bit of a rebound, but if you look at the overall trend, it's downward. I mean, look at the last year. They were trading at close to $100 a share, and now we're down to $61 a share. Yeah, so they've been kind of all over the place. Now, I think this bump right here was because of the pandemic because of, earnings being through the roof on D&D and Magic the Gathering. But it sounds like they're relying too heavily on Magic cards, and the magic is gone. Magic is gone. Analysts at Bank of America downgraded Hasbro to the equivalent of sell from buy. They said card prices for Magic were falling after the company flooded the market with new releases. Big retailers were pulling back on orders, game stores were losing money on the game, and collectors were trying to offload their cards. Oh my God, it's like the Beanie Baby crash. We've spoken with several players, collectors, distributors, and local game stores and have become aware of growing frustration, Bank of America analysts said in a note. The primary concern is that Hasbro has been overproducing Magic cards, which has propped up Hasbro's recent results but is destroying the long-term value of the brand. Magic the Gathering makes up 15% of Hasbro's sales. The analyst said sales of the game doubled over the pandemic, driving up card prices on the secondary market. So yeah, what are you going to do? Print more, print lots more. But after Hasbro tried to meet that enthusiasm with more set releases, players have struggled to keep up, Bank of America said, leading them to revert to a format that allows them to use older cards. The increased supply has crashed secondary market prices, which has caused distributors, collectors, and local game stores to lose money on Magic. As a result, we expect they'll order less product in future releases. 7 of the last 8 major Magic releases have declined in value, and Hasbro continues to reprint its most successful sets, driving prices down further. They continued, our store checks have also found that many national retailers are cutting Magic, and those that continue to carry it are heavy with aged inventory. Sounds like comics. Sounds like comic books. The analyst said sales growth for the game has been spurred by more frequent set releases. Audience growth, they said, hasn't kept up. Out of 10 analysts tracked by FactSet, 7 have a buy rating on Hasbro, 3 have a hold. Hasbro stock has fallen 44% this year. So, yeah, it sounds like they're trying to keep the good times rolling, and they're overproducing cards. Hasbro's never overproduced anything, ever. Never, ever have they overproduced anything. And never, ever has it bitten them in the ass. At any point in time. Hasbro has never done that. Yeah, remember when their stock dropped before? It was because they had way too much Star Wars crap sitting on the shelves. Crazy. So this is Kotaku's take on it. Toy company slammed for getting greedy with Magic the Gathering. Now, this is Kotaku. And Kotaku has been all on board with the D&D is racist. We have to keep the Yahtzees out of our gaming spaces. Magic the Gathering has gotten quote-unquote woke lately. I mean, a lot of things going on with that scene. And they're even dunking on Hasbro. They're turning on Hasbro too, because this is how it always works, right? We've seen this time and time again. A lot of these slacktivist journalist types will, deride a company for some of their choices. And when the company makes changes, then at the first sign of trouble, they ditch the company anyway. And that's kind of what's going on here. They spent so much time telling Hasbro what they should do. We need to be more inclusive. We need to be more diverse. You need to get the trolls out of the gaming. We need more, coffee adventure role-playing sets for Dungeons and Dragons, and less fighting and all of that shit. And now they're like, oh yeah, you're greedy. You guys are a bunch of greedy bastards. I mean, this is the 30th anniversary is coming up, and they're like, you guys are a bunch of greedy bastards, Hasbro, and you get what you deserve. So they're going to turn on them. So, they were under fire by one of their investors a couple months ago. We covered this, that one of their investors wanted them to spin off Wizards of the Coast into a separate company, because they were like, if Wizards is a separate company, if we're free of Hasbro, Wizard can just do what it does best, make games, appeal to gamers. We're going to be free of Hasbro and all that jazz. And that did not work out very well for them. Hasbro honestly needs Wizards of the Coast at this point because they have other issues. Lots of other issues. Their toy sales are down big time. In fact, Hasbro having that bump, that was because of Wizards. They can't afford, I don't think, to lose them. But Hasbro's been getting kind of weird with some of their DEI programming and racial training and all this stuff. They've come under fire for that. And the one that took took the taco from me was Geeks and Gamers actually commented on this. There was a convention, and there was a clip of the G.I. Joe panel, G.I. Joe Classified, the action figures, at this one panel, and the Hasbro brand manager was making these grown-ass men, these 45-year-old dudes, a lot of them, in the military themselves, they still collect G.I. Joe, making them give their pronouns before they could ask any questions about the damn G.I. Joe toys. Like, Hasbro has just gone down this path that is going to lead to going broke, I believe. It looks like we're already seeing it, but in this case, it is because of greed. And I think eventually collectors will kind of be like, yeah, you guys kind of suck. I know in the Transformers community, I collect way more Transformers than I do G.I. Joe, even though I like the Classifieds figures quite a bit. But I know that Transformers collectors are very, very unhappy with the eco-friendly packaging, because what's going on is the figures are being swapped or stolen, or they don't look like they do on the box, and there's no way to actually see what you're getting. And that was a big virtue signal, like, oh, hey guys, we're trying to save the environment. We're making all these plastic figures, these Ray action figures that are going to wind up in a landfill. But we're going to take the windows off of the Transformer boxes. The $50 Transformers, so you can't see them. That is going to save the environment. Never mind that collectors usually don't throw out the packaging anyway. Collectors, if anything, are the ones that want the bubbles. They want to see what they're actually getting, and they want to display it on a shelf. And so my understanding is that Transformer sales are down too, because collectors aren't real happy about having to buy a product they can't see. So Hasbro is getting it from all sides, for sure. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. We'll keep an eye on it. I don't know, maybe Hasbro will get desperate enough to sell Wizards. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.